going on, everyone? Welcome to the first episode. Wow, first official episode of Unmuted, where we hit the unmute button on muted conversations. I hope everyone's doing well. A lot of friends of mine are in school at the moment, and it's right around final season. So, if that's you, I hope that this episode can serve as some calm amidst the storm. And for everyone else listening, thank you so much for tuning in to the first episode. This is undoubtedly a tough one for me to record, simply because it's a topic that's still very much relevant in my own life. And today I want to explore the idea of not letting pain harden your heart. And if you're someone who's found themselves, like I did years ago, a bit cold and a bit distant, I hope that the next few minutes can convince you to melt the ice surrounding your heart. It's a conscious decision you have to make, but from experience, I can tell you that it's worthwhile. I want to start with a story, a rather vague one, I think, that reflects the struggles that a lot of us face in maintaining our kindness and our warmth amid pain. And those of you that know me personally might be able to piece some things together, but those of you that don't, feel free to apply what I'm saying to virtually any relationship in your life, including the one that you have with yourself. So I come from divorced parents, and unfortunately, that's not a unique experience. I mean, it marked the earlier years of my life with some pain. I've since healed from it, thankfully. And if I'm being honest, I think that my parents are better off separate. Sorry, mom and dad. But I can say that I commend them for learning how to put their own emotions aside for the sake of me and my brother. Now, the story. Short, vague story, but it wasn't until I was about 12 that I started experiencing what would later be described to me by a therapist as emotional abuse. And the reason I think its effects were as pervasive and as destructive as they were, and if I'm being honest, as they sometimes still are, is that it was very close to home for me. Now, I don't want to paint my teenage years as this strictly dark, traumatic time, because there was light and there was joy, and in some regard there was peace, and I thank God every day for that. But I can't ignore the fact that there was pain too. And the thing that I remember most about those late middle school into early high school years was how much anger I carried around. I didn't know that's what it was at the time, but I've since recognized it as anger, or maybe even as frustration that turned into anger. And anyway, what I do know is that it put a really strong damper on my spirit. I remember this one day, I was going to basketball practice. For those of you that know, I'm a hooper. I play footy and athlete all around, but this specific day I was going to basketball practice, and I was the first one in the gym. And I remember I sat down on the sideline, I had my coat on, I had my hood over my head, you could probably barely see my face, and I just laid against the mat. And not too long after that, a coach of mine walked in, and she said hi. I said hey, and she asked me if I was alright. And I think deep down she knew something was up, but I don't think she was going to press me about it. And in that moment, for a split second, I wanted to tell her everything. I didn't know where to start. And if I did, I think I was afraid that if I did, the water that was my inner thoughts and the dam that was my mind would pour out, and I wouldn't be able to stop it. So instead, I said nothing. I continued carrying around all that anger, all that pain, all that confusion until years later, through prayer and therapy and healing, I made the conscious decision to let it go, or at least to begin to let it go. I chose to melt the ice. And I think the biggest reason for that decision was because I realized the anger that was gnawing at me from inside. If I let it continue, it wouldn't stop until it left the shell of a person. And I was more afraid of becoming a shell of myself than I was of starting to heal. So that's what I did. So for me personally, it was letting go of that anger was one of the best decisions I ever made. And if I'm being really honest with you, I'm still letting go of that anger today. There are a lot of benefits to doing that. I mean, first and foremost, it preserves your inner peace. You let go of that anger and replace it with empathy. And it's hard work. And sometimes we inherit wounds that were never ours. But that doesn't mean that we're damned to be bleeding for the rest of our lives. We can choose to heal. And for me, and I'd suggest that for you, it starts with replacing anger with empathy. Or at the very least, replacing anger with sympathy. And the second reason, arguably the most important reason, that I encourage you to choose to melt the ice, is that if you don't, you're robbing people of the opportunity to experience all that you are. All your little quirks, how you get excited when you see a puppy on the street, or how you hug someone a little extra tight when you know they need it, or how you refuse to let age take away your childlike spirit. All those things, big and small, that make up who you are. It's a beautiful thing, and it's something that other people should get to experience. And more importantly than that, don't rob yourself of the love, of the care, of the joy, of the peace that's out there waiting for you. Because if I can promise you one thing, is that it's out there. And it's just waiting for you to claim it. So, I'll leave you all with that. I know today might have been a bit heavy, but I did promise I'd be honest and authentic, and that is a promise that I don't intend to break. I hope that even if you couldn't relate directly, you're able to take something away from this episode. And I hope that if nothing else, it brought you some peace of mind. Thank you for joining me today on Unmuted, first official episode. If you know anyone else that could benefit from hitting the unmute button in their own lives, share this episode with them. With that being said, thank you. I love you, and I'll see you next Thursday.